What's up, everybody? It is Rustbeard, and we haven't gotten any allied races in a while, and I'm kind of sick of it. I think that we probably should be seeing an allied race in the new expansion, and if we don't, I think we riot. In all seriousness, it has been quite a while since we got a new allied race. It's been quite a while since we've just gotten a regular race, which I guess with the allied races, that's probably not going to happen anymore. I think that we are probably overdue for one, and the new expansion is probably a good place for us to get some new ones on the Horde and the Alliance, maybe even some neutral ones, so we're going to talk about it today. I know that everybody wants their Dragon Spawn and Naga and Centaurs and all that kind of stuff, but their body shape would pose way too much of a challenge for the dev team, I think, to actually implement that. So we're just going to leave those off of this list. Also, there's a lot to be said about the generally villainous races such as the Gnolls and the Quillbore and all that kind of stuff, so we're probably going to leave them off of this list as well. And another group of allied races that we are going to be leaving off the list are all of the bug races for the same issues as before. I think the dev team would just probably rip all of their hair out if they tried to develop armor or mount animations or anything like that for any of the bug races, to be honest. Although I would love to play as a Klaxi. I think that would be absolutely insane. Also, I know. I've been saying a lot of these are not going to be talked about, but just bear with me. Sub races of existing races, so like the Dark Iron Dwarves, for example, or the Forest Trolls, for example, the ones that basically you can just put a new skin on or a new customization for the one that already exists. We're probably not going to talk about those either, because let's be honest, those can just be done the same way they did with like the Wildhammer paint for the dwarves and so forth, so we're just not going to talk about those either. But Rustbeard, you're eliminating all of the cool races that we could potentially have as allied races. What gives? Yeah, no, I thought you'd say that. That's just a lie. There are plenty of other races in WoW that definitely could be playable. Some of them I think have been under the radar for long enough now, so we're going to talk about them. Oh, and hold on, one more thing. I promise I'm not going to hold you up anymore. The lore implications or justifications or whatever, I will discuss a little bit at the end, because I think that there are lore justifications for pretty much every single one of the ones that I'm going to talk about today that honestly could work for any allied race, even the Centaurs or the Quillbore or whatever. So I will discuss that towards the end a little bit, just bear with me. So first we're going to talk about the Alliance faction. We're going to start off with the Jinyu. I think the Jinyu are a pretty obvious choice. We helped them as the Alliance in Pandaria, and their models are not too dissimilar from Night Elf models, other than the fishy aspects and so forth. Also, the fins clipping and stuff through armor I don't think would be an issue, because the bones and whatnot clip through the armor for undead. There's even parts of armor that's like just straight up missing from undead sets, so I don't think it would be too much of an issue or too much of an ask, honestly, to just have like fins and bits and bobs like that clipping through the sleeves or whatever. Demon Hunter horns and Tauren horns, tusks from trolls and orcs and all that stuff clips through as well, so I don't think that would be too big of an issue for the dev team to work on. Next are satyrs, and I know that satyrs are kind of a weird one, but we've already got digitigrade legs on multiple different races now. A lot of them already have hooves, so I don't think that would be too much of an issue. That being said, satyrs I think could fit in the Alliance well because of their link to Teldrassil and the druids and all that kind of stuff. I think that would just be a natural fit for satyrs and the Alliance. Also, armor-wise, they have pretty humanoid models other than their legs, so it shouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that you could probably model some armor for them as well. Not to mention the players would eat it up. They'd love it. The last one for the Alliance I'm going to talk about are Night Elves. Night Elf Worgens. And I know, I said no sub-races, but this isn't really a sub-race so much as it is combining two different races together that already exist. And the Night Elf Worgens already exist in game to a degree, so there's no reason why they couldn't be allied somehow, especially when the Worgens took refuge in Teldrassil and with the Night Elves for the most part, since they were thrown out of Gilneas. That being said, I do know, I'm pretty sure the Worgen models, specifically the Worgen models, don't look really any different than the human Worgen models. So I mean, I know that's kind of weird, but let's be honest, there's no reason why we couldn't get some like really cool fur colors for Worgens, like greens and purples and blues and all that kind of stuff. And of course have some kind of night elf staple. I don't know, maybe their face tattoos and stuff like that they've got, they can have in their fur or whatever. I don't know how they would do it, but dude, we've gotten like different bear models for all the druids. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't get some different fur colors and whatnot for Night Elf Worgens. I don't know how they could do it, but I'm sure it could be done. The armor models and stuff are already taken care of, so that's already there. Now for the Horde. So the Horde, I'm gonna go ahead and say Hosen for the first one. And I know a lot of people are probably like, that would be extremely difficult to make armor models for, and maybe a little bit more difficult to justify than the Jinyu for the Alliance. However, let's be real, guys. They're going to have to do some kind of like tinkering and adjustments and whatnot, no matter what allied race comes in, unless, again, they did some crazy stuff like the Lightforged Draenei, for example, where it's pretty much just a Draenei with some light stuff on them. And I don't know, they're cool, I guess, but they're not nearly as cool as the really different allied races, like the Mecha Gnomes, for example. Yeah, they're just gnomes, but they're mechanized, but it's really cool to see the Mecha Gnomes with the different options to customize their arms and their legs and how much is mechanical and how much isn't. Also, with the Kultirans, I know they're just humans, but they're thicker models, and they really missed the bill with not adding the thinner models that are also seen in Borealis. Come on, man, I'm a skinny dude. I would like to see some Kultiran humans that are not big, hulking behemoths, you know, or even the regular human models are honestly pretty beefy. So my point is, having the Jinyu as the Alliance version of this, and the Hosen coming back for the Horde, I think would be super cool. Not to mention the Hosen are fun, man. The Hosen are fun. I honestly would have taken the Hosen over Goblins at one point. I do have a crazy respect for the Goblins and the lore and all the stuff that is behind the Goblins and all the cartels. It's just really cool to learn about. If you never did check out any videos on the Goblin lore, you definitely should. It's pretty cool. But the Hosen are fun. They're crazy. They're wild. I could see it being such a headache for the rest of the Horde to have them in their ranks, but also at the same time, they're like, you know what? We need all the help we can get for the 20 old gods we've got to face in the new expansion. Secondly, for the Horde, I've got the Machnathal, or the Half-Ogres, and I know that they only have like one civilization left or something like that out in the Blade's Edge Mountains, but I don't know, dude. There's a lot of races that we have, or allied races, or whatever, especially like the high elf models for the blood elves or whatever. There's only supposed to be like a handful of high elves or something like that left, so there's no reason why we couldn't do the same thing for half ogres. And I'm putting the half ogres here because I know a lot of people want playable ogres, but they're huge, man. They're absolutely massive. And the half ogres basically just look like beefier orcs. They're a little bit taller, I guess, but so are trolls and taurens, so there's no reason why we couldn't have Kultiran style situation, but for the orcs, where you just beef up the orc model, even though they're already pretty beefy, and the shoulders would be the pauldrons on a half ogre would be absolutely ridiculous, probably. I think it would buff out with the rest of the size of them. It'd probably feel like just playing a tauren, but with an orc skin on it, pretty much. Oh, that sounded kind of gross. Next, we are going to do the undead. Okay, I know. I said no sub races, but hear me out on this one as well. I gave you an exception for the Alliance. You're gonna give me an exception for the Horde, all right? The undead, but every other race, and yes, I mean Alliance races included. Trolls, orcs, gnomes, goblins, Draenei, you name it, all of them, but undead versions of them. The models already exist. All you'd have to do is limit their skin color options to like 4 or 5 that would be more sickly greens and grays and stuff like that. Give them some like stitches, or like have their bones and stuff exposed and whatnot, like they do the Forsaken already. And the models are already there. They already have models for all of these, so there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't work to a technical perspective. There's also no reason lore-wise, I don't think, because during the siege of the Undercity and so forth, because I know the Forsaken already are like products of the Lordaeron takeover and so forth, and the Lich King and whatnot. Because of the siege of the Undercity and Sylvanas raising a bunch of the dead and stuff, there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't have all the other races that were there as well. especially after the Shadowlands expansion. There's plenty of ways that we could introduce them into the Horde. I don't think the Alliance would take them. I don't know, maybe Anduin would accept them into their ranks, and maybe this could go on to a neutral section instead of a Horde specific, but I think it would be fun to have the undead, but being able to be an undead Tauren, for example, with like patchy fur and like their teeth showing through their lips and stuff. I don't know, I think that would be really fun. That could also be how they transition the druid thing into the undead as well, because I know there's a lot of speculation that druids will be playable for all races here soon or something like that, and or maybe more races, maybe not all races, but we're going to the Emerald Dream. Come on, give us druids, man. So for the neutral section, I'm gonna do kind of a rapid fire thing for obvious reasons, but I'll try to touch up on each one a little bit as I say them. The Sethrak. So the Sethrak, I know the long skinny necks and stuff like that because they have snake heads and whatnot, and the animations would be kind of weird for riding mounts, but I think, again, this goes back to the whole Hosen issue. I think that if they wanted to put a little bit of extra time and effort into it, I think the player base would love it. I think people would play Sethrak all the time. Honestly, it might even be an issue, because then half the player base is playing Sethrak. The Ethereals. So the Ethereals, I think, and maybe even the Brokers, but the Brokers would probably be a little bit more difficult. I guess I just added the Brokers in there because I think they look pretty cool. The Ethereals, I guess, more so, probably more likely, has been a fan favorite for a while. There's been a lot of people saying they want Ethereals as playable races, and the Ethereals are kind of like emotionless. I mean, I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Maybe they do have emotions somewhere deep down in their wrappings or whatever, I don't know. I think it would be pretty cool, and I know there was an argument a while back that Ethereals don't have the customization options that a lot of the other races do, so they'd feel pretty underwhelming, and their models wouldn't be as unique and so forth, but let's be real, a lot of the allied races that we have don't have nearly as many customization options as the other, like, full playable races, so I don't know, I think it could be done. You could change up their wrappings or what they're wrapped in. You could change whether they're wrapped at all. I don't know how ethereals work. You could change the color of their aura or whatever it is, the energy that's flowing through them. I don't know how they could do ethereals. Maybe they could do a whole starting zone on how ethereals are even made to begin with. And then you just poop out into Azeroth and you join a faction. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have any idea of how they would incorporate ethereals into the game. And of course, last but certainly not least, as a matter of fact, I think I saved the best for last. Tuskar, obviously. Come on, man. If we had playable Tuskars, I would probably race change like 3 or 4 different characters to a Tuskar, just so I'd have like multiple Tuskars to play. I don't know if I'd be able to switch my main to a Tuskar because he's been my main for a very long time, but dude, probably a lot of my other ones. I don't know. The armor, I think we've seen a good majority of the armors. I know in WoW Model Viewer, for like years ago when Tuskars were pretty new, WoW Model Viewer had the ability to add a lot of the like character armor, the playable character armor, to the Tuskar other than like helmets. But even then, again, rigging up some armor, plus I'm pretty sure they all got new models too, didn't they? So why not? Let's do it, man. Do it, Blizzard. So the lore justifications for any of these. Now, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, the new expansion is in fact going to be a revamp of the old world. That means we're going to need new stories for old places. And what are in those old places? All of the races that I just mentioned, every one of them, with the exception of maybe the Outland ones. Obviously, I know that's kind of a stretch, but it's not impossible. Also, we don't know what's going on with Yrel and the old Draenor, not the broken up, destroyed Draenor, but the old Draenor. Yrel's doing some crazy shit with the magic as seen by the Makar orcs. There's no reason why those races couldn't come over into the world fleeing from her light crazed terror. I don't know. It's possible. It's a possibility. And I think that this is a way that they could justify adding any race, lore-wise, to the ranks of the Horde of the Alliance. Anyway, those are my lore justifications. I know there's probably some things that I miss, or some things that just would not make any sense whatsoever. Those, I think, would be fairly likely. I think those have more of a chance than some, and I think that it's probably more likely going to be some of those that I mentioned in this video, over a Naga, for example, or a Centaur. And I also want to be perfectly clear. I personally don't have any issue with any of these races being playable. Not the Centaur, not the Quillbore, not the Gnolls, not the whatever. I don't care. I would love to see a very diverse, crazy world where any player can play as any of the races. That would be fantastic. World of Warcraft has a lot of them. But let's be honest here, we already know that they're not going to be doing that anytime soon. It would just be way too much work. Would it be worth it for the grand scheme of things? I don't know. I think it'd be fun. A lot of other people think it'd be fun, but there's also a lot of other stuff that the dev team has to do in order to put the game out and the new expansions and so forth, so who knows. Maybe they'll start introducing stuff like that in Classic Plus as like a way that they could show a different timeline happening or whatever. Who knows? Anyway, let me know what you think. What race on this list do you want to see as an allied race? Or are the ones that I picked dumb as hell and you would like to see something completely different? I don't know, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And remember, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot and it pleases the algorithm gods. So thank you in advance for doing that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.